There is a mirror hanging in the sky right now, and on April 1st, it turns to face you directly. The full moon rises in Libra at 12 degrees and 21 minutes, and what it illuminates is not what you expected. This is not about the world. This is not about politics or economics or the collective story humanity keeps telling itself. This is about the one relationship you have been lying to yourself about, the one you keep defending with words that sound reasonable but feel hollow in your chest at 2 in the morning. The one where the balance has been off for so long that you have forgotten what equality even looks like, and the sky is done waiting for you to notice. Most people hear full moon in Libra and think romance. They think harmony. They think balance restored. They have no idea what is actually coming. Because this full moon does not arrive in an empty sky. It arrives in the aftermath of the most significant conjunction in 9,000 years. Saturn and Neptune met at 0 degrees of Aries just weeks ago. The ground rules of reality shifted, and now, the first full moon after that cosmic earthquake rises in the sign of partnerships and asks one devastating question. What have you been pretending not to see? In the next few minutes, I will show you 3 things that will change how you move through the first week of April. First, the exact mechanics of what is happening in the sky on April 1st, and why this particular full moon carries weight that most years simply cannot match. Second, the specific signs that will feel this most intensely, and what the mirror is showing each of them. And third, a practice you can begin tonight that prepares your nervous system for the revelation that is coming. Because revelation without preparation is just shock, and shock without integration is just another wound that never heals. If you have been waking in the middle of the night with someone's face in your mind, if conversations have felt heavier lately, loaded with things neither person is saying, if you have caught yourself rehearsing arguments in the shower or composing letters you will never send, stay here. The mirror is already turning, and what it shows you in the next 7 days will not wait for you to be ready. Let me ground this in what is actually happening above your head. On April 1st at 10:23 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon reaches exact opposition to the sun. The sun sits at 12 degrees and 21 minutes of Aries. The moon sits at 12 degrees and 21 minutes of Libra, a perfect polarity. A perfect mirror. One side is self, one side is other, and when they face each other in exact opposition, everything that has been hidden in the shadow between them becomes visible. But the geometry does not stop there. Look at where the sun is sitting. Aries, the same sign where Saturn and Neptune have been fused together since February. Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. The most important conjunction of this century happened in that sign just weeks ago, and now the sun, the center of our solar system, the source of all light in this corner of the galaxy, is traveling through the aftermath of that conjunction. It carries the residue. It carries the new frequency. And when the full moon opposes it, that frequency floods into your relationships like water finding every crack in a foundation. Saturn and Neptune together rewrote the contract between dream and structure, between what you imagine and what you build, between illusion and reality. And Libra is the sign that governs contracts. Partnerships, agreements, the promises you made to another person, and the promises you made to yourself about what you would accept. This full moon is not illuminating your relationships as they are. It is illuminating your relationships as they have become since the ground shifted. And for many of you, those are 2 very different things. There is more. Venus, the ruler of Libra, sits in Taurus at 15 degrees, her home sign, her place of power, and she forms a semi-sextile to the sun, a subtle but persistent angle of adjustment. Venus is whispering to the sun. The sun is shouting at the moon, and the message traveling through this chain is consistent. What you value and what you tolerate have drifted apart. The gap has become too wide for the universe to ignore. Mars, the ruler of Aries where the sun sits, is currently at 22 degrees of Pisces, still swimming in the waters of surrender. Still learning that force does not work in every situation. Mars in Pisces does not fight. It flows. It releases. And this means the Aries energy driving the sun is not aggressive right now. It is honest. Aries under Pisces Mars tells the truth not to wound. But because holding the truth has become more exhausting than speaking it. And here is the detail that elevates this full moon from significant to pivotal. Jupiter in Cancer at 17 degrees forms a wide but functional square to the Aries sun. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. In Cancer, it expands emotional truth, Home truth. The truth that lives in your gut, not your head. A square creates tension, friction, the need to act. Jupiter squaring this full moon axis means the revelation coming on April 1st is not subtle. It does not whisper. It does not wait for the right moment. It arrives with the weight of something that has been growing in the dark for months and can no longer be contained. The ancients understood full moons as moments of culmination, not beginnings, completions. The new moon plants, the full moon harvests, and what you harvest depends entirely on what was planted. If you planted honest communication in your relationship 6 months ago, this full moon brings the fruit of that honesty. If you planted avoidance, if you planted performance, if you planted the version of yourself you thought the other person wanted to see, this full moon brings that harvest too, and the taste will tell you everything you need to know. In the temples of ancient Greece, the goddess of the full moon was Selene. She drove her silver chariot across the night sky, illuminating what the sun could not reach. But Selene had a counterpart, Hecate, the goddess of crossroads, the one who stood where 3 paths met and watched which direction travelers chose. This full moon in Libra is not just Selene's light, it is Hecate's crossroads. You will see clearly what has been hidden, and then you will have to choose which path forward. The crossroads this full moon presents are specific to the relationship patterns you have been running since childhood. Libra is the sign of the other, but the other is always a mirror. What you cannot stand in another person is almost always what you cannot face in yourself. What you desperately need from another person is almost always what you have not learned to give yourself. And when the full moon illuminates your partnerships on April 1st, it is not really showing you the other person. It is showing you the parts of yourself you have outsourced to them. There is a question that has been circling your mind for weeks. You may not have put it into words. You may have felt it only as a tightness in your chest when certain topics arise, a quickness to change the subject, a strange exhaustion that descends whenever a particular conversation needs to happen. The question takes different forms. Am I settling? Am I seen? Am I giving more than I receive? Am I receiving more than I deserve? Is this partnership making me more myself or less? Do they know who I actually am? The full moon does not answer these questions. It makes them impossible to avoid. For one night, maybe 2, the clarity is so bright that the usual fog cannot return. And what you do in that window of clarity determines whether this lunation becomes a turning point or just another moment of temporary awareness that fades back into comfortable blur. Now let me show you where this lands in your body. Because the moon does not speak only through events. It speaks through sensation. And your body has been preparing for this full moon since the calendar turned to April. The chest. If you have felt a strange fullness in your chest over the past week, a sense of something pressing outward from behind your sternum, this is the moon building toward opposition. Libra governs the kidneys and the lower back, but it also rules the venous system, the blood returning to the heart. When the moon fills in Libra, the heart receives more than usual, emotionally and physically. You may have noticed your heartbeat more than normal, not faster necessarily, just more present, more audible in quiet moments. The throat. Venus rules both Libra and Taurus, and Venus in Taurus right now is activating the throat chakra with unusual intensity. If you have been swallowing words, if there are things you have wanted to say but kept finding reasons to wait, your throat knows, a persistent tightness, a need to clear it repeatedly, a subtle ache that has no medical explanation. These are the symptoms of unexpressed truth, and the full moon is the moment when swallowing becomes more painful than speaking. The lower back. This is Libra's domain in the physical body, the lumbar spine, the seat of support. If your lower back has been aching, if you have felt less supported than usual, if you have been carrying weight that does not feel like yours, the body is speaking the same message the sky is speaking. Balance has been disrupted, and the system is crying out for recalibration. Sleep. The 3 nights surrounding a full moon are traditionally the most disrupted, but this particular full moon with its connection to the Saturn-Neptune aftermath brings a specific flavor of sleeplessness. Not anxiety exactly. Awareness. You wake at 3 or 4 in the morning with unusual clarity. The thoughts that arrive in these hours are not the spinning worries of an anxious mind. They are clean, direct. Pay attention to what arrives in these windows. Write it down before sleep reclaims you. Now let me walk you through how this full moon touches each sign. not as a horoscope, as a map of where the mirror is pointing in your specific life. Libra, this is your full moon. The mirror is pointed directly at your face, and what it shows you is not who you are in relationship. It is who you have become by abandoning yourself to keep the peace. You have been so focused on harmony that you have forgotten what your own unharmonized voice sounds like. The next 7 days ask you to find that voice again, not to create conflict, to tell the truth. There is a difference. Aries, the full moon lands in your 7th house, the house of partnership and committed relationship. If you are in a relationship, the dynamic is being recalibrated, whether you initiate it or not. If you are not in a relationship, the full moon illuminates why. Not with judgment, with clarity. The pattern that has kept you alone or kept you choosing unavailability is visible now. Seeing it is the first step to choosing differently. Cancer. The full moon activates your 4th and 10th house axis. Home versus career. Private self versus public role. The mirror is showing you where these two have become so imbalanced that one is cannibalizing the other. For some of you, work has consumed everything, and home has become just a place where you sleep. For others, domestic responsibilities have swallowed your ambition whole. Neither extreme is sustainable. Capricorn. This lands in your 4th house as well, but from the opposite angle. You have been building so long, climbing so steadily, that you may have forgotten what you were building toward. Success without sanctuary is hollow. Achievement without someone to share it with echoes. The full moon asks whether your foundation at home can support the empire you are constructing in the world. Gemini. The full moon lights up your 5th and 11th house axis. Creative self-expression versus social belonging. The things you create for yourself versus the groups you belong to. If you have been performing for your community, giving them the version of you that gets accepted rather than the version of you that is real, the mask slips on April 1st. Sagittarius. The mirror points at your beliefs, your philosophies, the stories you tell yourself about how life works and what you deserve. A relationship in your life has been shaped by a belief that is no longer true. Maybe it never was. The full moon illuminates the belief itself, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Taurus. Venus rules this full moon and sits in your sign. You are the anchor point for this entire lunation. What you value is the question, not what you say you value. What you actually prioritize with your time, your energy, your attention. If there is a gap between your stated values and your lived values, that gap becomes visible on April 1st. Scorpio. The full moon lands in your 12th house, the house of hidden things. Unconscious patterns, self-undoing. For you, the mirror does not show your relationships directly. It shows what you do to sabotage them. The ways you test, the walls you build, the push and pull that exhausts everyone around you. Seeing the pattern is confronting. But Scorpio is built for confrontation. Leo. The axis being activated is the 3rd and 9th house, communication and meaning. You have been speaking on the surface while holding the depths in silence. Words matter more than usual on April 1st, and the words you do not say will speak as loudly as the ones you do. Aquarius. The full moon illuminates your 3rd and 9th house axis as well, but from the opposite position. Your mind has been elsewhere, future-focused, detached in a way that may have felt like objectivity, but has actually been abandonment. Someone in your life has been talking, and you have been listening with only half your attention. Virgo. This lands in your 2nd and 8th house axis. What you own versus what you owe. There is a financial or energetic imbalance in a close relationship that has been growing quietly. One person gives more. One person receives more. The ledger has been ignored because addressing it felt uncomfortable. Discomfort is no longer optional. Pisces. The full moon activates your 2nd and 8th house axis from the other side. You have been giving, and dissolving your own boundaries in the name of love or service. The mirror shows you what remains when you give yourself away. And for some of you, the answer is not enough. This is not a judgment. It is an invitation to refill before you pour again. Here is what I want you to do between now and April 1st. Not after the full moon has passed, before it arrives. Because preparation allows integration, and integration is the difference between revelation and re-traumatization. Tonight, before you sleep, sit for 3 minutes in silence. Not meditation, just silence. And ask yourself one question. What truth am I avoiding in my closest relationship? Do not force an answer. Let the question sit in your chest like a stone in a still pond. The ripples will reach the shore in their own time. Tomorrow, notice your body throughout the day. Every time you interact with the person this question relates to, notice where your body responds. Does your jaw tighten? Does your stomach knot? Do your shoulders rise toward your ears? The body knows what the mind is still debating. Let it inform you. On March 31st, the night before the full moon, write one paragraph. Begin it with the words, "The truth I have been avoiding is." Let your hand complete the sentence without editing, without making it sound reasonable, without protecting anyone including yourself. Fold the paper and place it under your pillow. Sleep on it, literally. On April 1st, when the full moon rises, go outside, face the moon. You do not need to say anything. You do not need to perform a ritual. Just stand in her light for 3 minutes and let yourself be seen. All of you. The parts you present to the world and the parts you hide even from yourself. The moon does not judge, she illuminates. Let her do her work. On April 2nd, read what you wrote. Notice how differently it lands after a night under the full moon's gaze. The words have not changed, but you may have. If the truth still feels true in the daylight, then you know it is not just midnight dramatization. It is real, and real requires response. This is the first full moon after the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that rewrote the rules of reality. Whatever patterns you are running in your relationships, they were established under the old rules. The old rules where certain illusions were sustainable, where certain pretenses could be maintained indefinitely. Those rules are gone. Saturn and Neptune dissolved them at 0 Aries. And this full moon is the first test of whether your relationships can survive in the new terrain. Some relationships will not survive this transit, not because the full moon destroys them, because the full moon reveals that they were already unsustainable, held together by illusion rather than truth, by performance rather than presence, by fear of being alone rather than genuine desire to be together. Other relationships will deepen beyond recognition. The same clarity that exposes what is false also confirms what is true. If your partnership is built on genuine foundation, the full moon illuminates that foundation and shows you how solid it actually is. You may see your person more clearly than you ever have before, and what you see may fill you with a gratitude that has no words. The next 7 days are not about the moon. They are about you, what you are willing to see, what you are willing to admit, what you are willing to do with the clarity that comes, whether you invited it or not. The moon will rise on April 1st, regardless of your readiness. The light will fall on your relationships regardless of your comfort. The only variable is you. Libra is not actually about balance. It is about the courage to tell the truth even when the truth disrupts the balance. Real harmony is not the absence of conflict. It is two people honest enough to name what is real and committed enough to work with it. Fake harmony is performance, and performance exhausts everyone eventually. If something moved in you while you listened to this, write it below. Not a theory, not a philosophical observation. The specific truth that surfaced when I asked what you have been avoiding. Your words become a mirror for the next person who reads them. And sometimes seeing our own truth reflected in a stranger's comment is what finally gives us permission to act on it. If there is someone in your life who needs to hear this before April 1st, someone whose relationship is at a crossroads they have been avoiding, trust the name that just entered your mind and send them this video. The mirror is turning toward all of us, and facing it together is less frightening than facing it alone. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The window after this full moon is critical. What you do in the 72 hours following April 1st will shape your relationships for the rest of this year. I will be here to walk you through it. Remember what I said at the beginning. The mirror does not decide which category your relationship falls into. You already know. You have known for longer than you want to admit. The full moon simply makes that knowing conscious, undeniable, impossible to talk yourself out of once the light has touched it. April 1st is not a punishment. It is a gift wrapped in discomfort. Because clarity, even when it hurts, is always better than the slow erosion of living in fog. The universe has spoken. What comes next is in your hands.